You're now listening to The Straight Shooter Show with your host, The Straight Shooter.
Welcome to The Straight Shooter Show, where we're always going to shoot you straight. I am Straight Shooter, also known as Jason. If you're a fan of the old Straight Shooter Show, you need to know that things are changing here. We have decided that we're going a different direction. This new area of the podcast, we are going to focus on careers. We're going to be talking to people primarily in the trades, and we're talking anything from welders to nurses, beauticians, on down the line. If it's a trade, I'm going to talk to somebody, at least one somebody, probably several somebodies from each one of those trades, so that we can get people's perspective on the highs and the lows, the do's, the don'ts, and try to be an informative and entertaining as possible. A little bit about me, if you're new listening. I am a 30-year truck driver, 25-year Teamster. I'm a single dad. I have a TikTok following, which is what got me started in doing any kind of social media at all, really. I last year, or maybe the year before, I acquired my life coach certification, and that's why we started making podcasts in the first place. So that's a little bit about me. And for my very first guest on this new podcast, I decided to ask a friend of mine, a longtime friend. He's a HVAC technician, has been for many years. I'll let him tell you how long. And he's agreed to come on and give us the knowledge that he has. So here comes Eric. All right. Thanks a lot, Eric, for coming on the show. We really do appreciate you taking the time to give us some information, because I got a lot of questions. I'm sure the viewers have a lot of questions, and hopefully we can get most of them answered. How are you doing today?
Pretty good. It was pretty cold here today. It snowed yesterday, so
did you have to
other
work
than that,
outside?
I'm doing great.
Did you have to work outside
No,
today? All indoors?
not today. All indoors.
Is that
I'm very
by choice? Can you, or on days like this, are you sometimes forced out there on the roof?
Sometimes I'm forced, but most of the time it's by choice.
Yeah. Okay. So, I told you the whole idea behind this whole interview is to give people, insights, the good and the bad, to becoming an HVAC technician. And so why don't you tell us a little bit just about you and how you got into HVAC in the first place? What steps did you take to get into it?
Well, kind of a funny story. I delivered beer at the time. My wife had worked for an HVAC company, and I got to a little bit know about it. Went to school for it. Went to school for a year. Then I was also working for the company my wife worked for, and that's how I got into it, and got my journeyman's all wrapped up in 1 year, and that's how it got started for me.
Okay, so you went to school for 1 year. Do you mind divulging what did that cost you to go to school for that?
I think at the time that school was 4 nights a week for 1 year, and it was, I want to say, around $22,000.
22
But
grand.
I think they have other alternatives now. That school is no longer in business, and I think there's Votex you can go to until you're like 26 for free.
For
So
free?
if I'm correct, I think so. Like, if you live out in like Canadian County, I think you can go to the Canadian County Votech until you're 26 for free.
Okay. So we're in Oklahoma for the viewers that or listeners that are listening from somewhere else. I know that my son, he went through HVAC 2 years at the high school. They offered it as part of his curriculum, and that was free. It didn't cost anything. And he went through the 2 years, but then decided after he got done that he didn't really have an interest. He didn't want to work in HVAC, so he opted not to do it. Is HVAC something that you would urge your children to do, or would you want them to go a different direction?
No, they love working with their hands too. So, and I've got three boys, and all of them are now working in HVAC, believe it or not.
How old are
So,
your sons?
my youngest is 19. My next middle child is 21, and he works for the company I work for. And then my oldest is 23, and he works for a residential company doing installs.
Okay. So, that's awesome. All three of them are doing the same work that you're doing.
Yeah.
Uh, you said the oldest one is working in residential. What do you do exactly?
So I do commercial and boilers, chillers, some ice makers, freezers, walk-in coolers, just bigger stuff like that. Like downtown Oklahoma City, there's three or four buildings I work on that have boilers, 10-story buildings, 20-story buildings. They all have water source heat pumps in them. So I do the larger stuff.
Okay. So you started doing that right out of school? You just went to work for a commercial company, or
I I got lucky, and yes, I started for working for a commercial company, and I didn't have to do a whole lot of residential stuff, no installs, nothing like that. I went directly into a commercial company and got to know what bigger companies, the bigger ones. I wanted to work on bigger stuff, and the company I started out with was light commercial. We did a lot of strip malls and stuff like that. So I looked into what companies were going to work on the bigger buildings to go basically chase money. I wanted to make more money.
all right.
So to do that, you had to do, some continuing education, some boiler classes and stuff like that. And that's what I did. And so that's how I ended up with working for one of the largest companies in Oklahoma.
Okay, so how do you feel about residential? I mean, are you opposed to doing residential work?
I I'm not the type of guy that wants to get an attic or crawl under houses. I don't think I would fit. So that's probably where I would avoid. But yeah, them people are needed as well. And it's harder work. I think it's harder on your body. You get a little bit more dirtier in a way, and you're in attics a lot, whether it's cold or hot up there, and it can be miserable. Where
Right,
in commercial, when commercial, if it's 110 degrees out, yeah, I may be on a rooftop, but at least there's wind here in Oklahoma that'll keep me somewhat cooler.
right. Yeah, for sure. So, as far as you're concerned, the way you're built, what you like, commercial is just the way for you. I mean, you would recommend that
Absolutely.
to anybody.
Absolutely. Go. Yeah, I would say chase the larger commercial companies in your area or your state. Look into it. Go ask the employees. Go to parts houses if you can, and just say, "Hey, who's the two or three biggest companies?"
Right.
And see kind of what they do, and chase them guys and try to get on at them jobs, because a lot of times it's hard to get on them unless you know somebody. But yeah, that'd be the way to go. That's where the money is.
Yeah. So money. I mean, in Oklahoma, what could a guy really count on making right out of school if he just got certified? He's an apprentice, or take me through the steps of what he would need to be an apprentice and a journeyman, whatever, and then what kind of money
So
expect.
yeah, so here in Oklahoma we have two licenses. You got a apprenticeship, three, I guess. You have apprenticeship. That's where you just have to have a company or a contractor sign
Mhm.
off on you, so you can go apply for your apprenticeship. It's $25 here in Oklahoma per year. You have to have that for 3 years before you can go test for your journeyman. Once you have your journeyman for 2 years, then you can go test for your contractors and own a company here in Oklahoma. Not all the states are like that. I think Texas, you don't need to go through all that. Texas is a little different, but so you might look in your own regulations and your own codes for your state. Starting out here as an apprentice, you're looking at it starting out around $18, give or take a few bucks. And then once you get your license, and depends on how confident you are, you can make easily get a raise up to 25. And then I would say
as
roughly
as an apprentice.
after you
Or
test.
okay, so you've
Yeah.
become a journeyman by then.
Yeah.
Okay,
So you make about 18, and a few years may go by, and then you test out. Maybe you can get your once you apply for your apprentice, if you do go to some of those VOTEX or go to school, some of those classes that you go to will count for up to, they'll double your time. So if you go to school for 6 months, it may count towards a year of your time. So you can get it knocked out a lot quicker.
Right.
So you can look into that. And then, but yeah, other than that, around the 5 year mark, let's say if you got your journeyman, you've been doing it about 5 years, I think you could easily make 25 to 30 an hour, depending on how confident you are and what company you go with.
Right.
And then what equipment you work on and how much you push yourself and the educations you go through. 10-year mark, you should probably be between 25 and 35, pretty easy. Again, they're going to pay the top dollar towards the bigger companies that require more knowledge. But yeah, easily.
Right.
After 10 years, I don't think there's any cap on it. I know there's guys making $45 an hour. So
see, that's something I have heard younger people say before is with some of these trades where they are going to start out at that, say $17, $18 mark. And they're like, man, I go work at this warehouse. I don't have to go to school at all. I can go over here and make $18 an hour. And I'm always like, yeah, you can. And in 5 years, you'll still be making 18 or 20 bucks an hour.
Right.
There's no future. So you do have to start, somewhere. So if you get the education and you start at the bottom, at least you are working towards something that will become a career.
Well, maybe they want to get forklift certified, become a stud. I don't know.
Hey, I'm forklift certified.
I can tell.
Well, it gets me places,
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the ladies like that. That's what I hear.
I'm sure they do. You probably need one for the ladies you date, huh?
Oh my. So we're gonna turn this into a roast.
let's just leave it there.
So one thing that I always look at whenever I think about trades or when I am talking to kids about trades, I always think in my mind, because I've known guys over the years that did like heat and air, or they did plumbing, or they did electrician work, and they were able to moonlight a lot. If they wanted to go work on the weekend, they did. If I look at somebody like say somebody that installs elevators, right? I can't imagine a guy that installs elevators, even though he has a lot of knowledge there. I don't know what he could do on the side. And I'm going to have an elevator install guy. So maybe he has, here in a couple of weeks, maybe he'll have some information on what he could do. But in heat and air, is there anything to prevent a guy if he wants to go do an install on the weekend on his own, without the company? Is there any reason why he couldn't do that?
Well, there are journeymen that do that. It is illegal here. And there's as much work out here as you want to do. I mean, everybody has heating and air. And
right.
So having your contractors and working for a company and then doing that, that's totally up to you. And that's all I'm going to say about that.
Okay. So guys that are going and doing this on their, if they just have a journeyman or an apprentice, are certainly should not necessarily be doing that. Whether they do or not, they probably shouldn't be.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Especially in their company van, right?
Right. So talk to me about that, about company van. I mean, the company provides you a vehicle to drive to and from work. You get to drive it wherever you want.
In Oklahoma, every company that I know provides you with a company vehicle. Pretty much day one. If not, they usually get you within something pretty soon. So yeah, I drive a company vehicle.
You drive it home.
That makes it every day.
Yeah.
That makes it nice. So yeah, do I stop at the grocery store on the way home in it? Absolutely. But as far as that goes, it stays on my driveway until needed and then start it up and go back to work. And so that makes it nice. That's one great benefit too here in Oklahoma doing this field when you're an electrician, plumber, I think
Right.
most trades provide. I think most trades provide you with the company vehicle. So I'm sure
Yeah.
you're going to get a lot of people say that.
Yeah. An awful lot of them do. Um, well, what about like medical? I mean, does your company provide you any kind of medical benefits or retirement or anything like that? And are you union or not?
I am not union. There are union companies out there, but every company that I have worked for tried to keep up with the union style,
Yeah.
and they do pay for my medical, and then if I or my medical benefits, and then if I want to add my family to it, that's an extra cost.
Yeah.
So they do pay for my vision, my dental, and my medical to some form, some extent. Most of them here are free for that, but then when you add your family to it, there is an extra cost for sure.
Right. Yeah. Everybody's always trying to keep up with the union standard, which, it's a good thing that the unions are there to set the standard in my mind.
Hey, that's fine by me. I don't pay union dues though, so I don't know.
Yeah, well, I do pay union dues, but it's well worth what I receive for it. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know about the HVAC field when it comes to unions.
Hey,
I
I'm
don't
not against
know.
the union. I'm not against the union. I don't know. I've never compared apples to apples,
Right,
but I'm non-union and they pay pretty much, if not more than what union pays their guys.
right,
But it is some of the union, I don't know how union works, but some of the unions companies here in Oklahoma are as big as the company as I work for. So I don't know if that makes a difference or not.
right. Well, I do see a lot of times when there are union companies versus non-union, where a non-union company may make a little more per hour, but there's a benefit somewhere that offsets that difference in pay. In my experience, not saying that's the case with heat and air, but in my experience, all the
Yeah.
union places, there's always some
Hey,
other benefit there that offsets the difference in pay.
yeah, that's why you got to go out there and just check things out. And man, ask, when you see an employee working for that company in the company van,
Right,
go ask them questions. Most of us guys are pretty friendly, and we'll help you get it figured out.
right, right. So, all right, let me ask you this: if you were trying to convince somebody to go into the field, the HVAC field, what's a couple of things that you would tell them that you haven't already said to us that you would tell them to urge them to get into that trade?
I think I've said everything pretty much already, but go to school, account for your time, get your 3 years in as quick as possible, take your journeyman test, aim for a large commercial company, dodge residential, go into service. Don't go into installs or go into construction because the company I work for has a construction division. Them guys work pretty hard too, and they have to work on weekends sometimes because the offices are closed, and that's when they can get in there. So I would always say, no matter what you go into, whether if you get your foot in the door in residential or commercial, service is the way to go. Be a service technician.
So, what I'm hearing you say right then was even if you have to start in residential or if you have to start in construction, you need to be aiming for, or in your mind, you should be aiming for the service. Um, what do you call it? Service,
The
just
service department, service division, just be a service tech.
uh, service tech.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you were trying to deter somebody from going into the field, is there anything that you could tell them that are like really negative aspects of that field? And you're like, well, you are going to have to deal with this.
So we do have to go on call. And being with the larger commercial company that we do not do any restaurants, we hardly do any gas stations here. So that kind of limits our service a lot, which is nice. I go on call about every 22 weeks for 1 week at a time. If you are in service, you're going to have to be on call at one point or another. If you go work for a company that does restaurants, maybe there's only 5 guys working for them. You're going to
Yeah.
be on call every 5 weeks. And when you're in the restaurant business, you're probably going to get called out and get 80 hours a week. If that's something you want, then that's not a bad field. They do ice machines. They get paid really well, them guys.
Yeah.
But I'm just not one that wants to put 80 hours in every 5 weeks.
Right. Yeah. I wouldn't
So
either.
yeah, so that's the only downfall is being on call. Uh, I get a little stressed out. That's my time to be cranky when I'm on call. Even if I
Yeah.
don't get a call, just knowing that I could get called out and just to, have to kind of sit at home and and just chill and wait for that phone to ring. And then somebody like you will call me, and then I'm thinking I got to go run a call, but it's just you.
Right.
So,
We talked a little bit about, it's way more labor intensive to do the commercial climbing in attics and underneath houses and stuff. What about danger? Would you consider being in HVAC field a dangerous career? Is there very many things that could harm or kill you?
so I would say no. I mean, there is some electrical, but everything we work on, there the disconnects right there. You turn it off and then you troubleshoot.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to turn it on to see how it operates, to do a little bit of troubleshooting. Um, I've only been shocked with 460 one time. It wasn't fun, but I lived through it. So
Yeah.
another time I was working on a walk-in cooler and I fell off of it. I broke a rib, but that's the only bone I've ever broke, knock on wood. But there's only one other guy that had broke his leg last year that I know of, and I've been doing this for 20 years.
Yeah. Well, I
So
mean, falling off a cooler, I mean, you could trip walking down the street and break a rib or a leg or something.
yeah,
So
well, Oklahoma, it's windy, and when you throw a ladder up, you better strap it down.
right, yeah. All right. To be honest with you, I mean, I really feel like we've addressed most of the questions that I think people might have to make a determination if HVAC is a direction that they would want to go. Um, I would urge listeners to leave comments, especially if you're watching on YouTube. If you have questions that we didn't get to, that we didn't answer, I would urge you to leave a comment and ask the question. I know Eric would be happy to check the comments periodically and try to answer the questions, or I will certainly be checking comments and answer them if I can. If I can, I'll be calling Eric and saying, "Hey, get on there and answer these people's questions." So,
And I would do it right away for you.
I know you would. I know you would, Eric.
Absolutely.
Hey, I do have one other thing, not for people who are considering going into the trade, but do you have any tips for the average consumer? Anything that I could do to save money on HVAC, or just give me some tips as an average consumer, things I need to be thinking about that a lot of us probably don't.
I'd say keep your filters changed at least every 3 months. I had three boys running in and out, so I had to change them more often than that.
Yeah.
But change them as often as needed. And I know these places sell these filters at $15-20 a pop.
Yeah.
Try to go to like a lock supply or a supply house in your area and see if you can't get them for like $5 because that's what they normally go for. I buy them for $5.
So,
So that'll save you some money there, but just keep them changed if anything.
so lock supply or a supply house, like a heat and air supply, like place where you guys go to get your parts and stuff. Is that what you're talking
Yeah,
about?
right.
Okay.
Here in Oklahoma, I think in Oklahoma here we have a Johnstone
Mhm.
supply, and I think they're a national brand. So you should have maybe a Johnstone in your area, and you can probably get that filter for 60%, what you're normally paying
Hmm. And
way
most all of
cheaper.
them, as far as you know, will sell. I mean, here in Oklahoma, they'll sell to the
Yeah,
public.
yeah. Yeah, for a filter they will. They may not sell you a Freon or nothing like that or a
Right.
unit, but they will sell you a filter. They don't usually hand pick and choose on that stuff. But then the other thing would be to what you have there right behind you, a condenser coil, that your
Right.
outside unit. Man, that I wash them out in the summertime once a month. Like every time you mow, just hit it with a water hose. You don't use a chemical. I don't even turn mine off. I just go out there and rinse it off the best I can because if that thing can breathe, keep itself as cool as possible, keep your amperage low, keep your energy bill low. That's what I'd say. So keep your filters changed to keep your outdoor coils clean.
Yeah. Yeah, that's two things that I do think about, but I don't change my filters as often as I should. Even though I think about it, I'm like, yeah, I need to get on top of that. But I do spray off my coils,
Yeah.
pretty regular.
I don't know if you get this a lot, but I hear a lot of times people will say, Where's my filter? What do you mean I got a filter?" And
Right.
that blows my mind. So definitely get the word out, change your filters. You might have 2 or 3 in your house, and you may just have one in your unit. Who knows? Go find it and change it.
Yeah. Well, I may have to make a TikTok just about that, this topic right here, to remind people to go change their filter. Yeah.
Will
Save
you do
somebody
that
some money.
will you do that about every 3 months? So when you pop up, I know to go change it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll put it on my calendar.
I appreciate that. Mine are probably pretty dirty right now. I don't even want to look up at them.
All right, Eric. I think we've talked enough, and I really, really appreciate you coming on, spending the time, giving us your knowledge. And again, for the listeners, we'll answer any other questions that we didn't get to that you have. So please leave them in the comments, and we'll look forward to reading what you guys have to say.
Okay. Are you going to send that money over Venmo for doing this, or what?
Yeah, no, my Venmo's not
Okay.
working.
Next time I see you, right?
Yeah, it'll be one of those. I'll gladly pay you next Tuesday for the interview
All
today.
right. All right.
All right, we're gonna get out of
All right,
here.
man.
Thank you.
All right. See you later.
All right.